Welcome to the Coalcast. I'm Nathan Brandt, CEO of Coal Ironworks, and today we are joined with AJ Huff. AJ, thank you so much for coming by. Please tell me who you are, what you do, why you're here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. My name is AJ Huff. I run a CNC job shop called Audacity Micro, and more recently I started up a network of American, manufacturing American job shops that are working together called Subtract Manufacturing.
Subtract Manufacturing. So, what brings you here today? What are you looking for?
I have been trying to get into more and more Indiana local, machine shops, manufacturing, and do some shop tours to put up on my YouTube channel.
Very cool. And what's the YouTube channel?
Audacity Micro.
Audacity Micro. Very cool. So what's your history like? What got you into manufacturing? What got you into CNCing? Tell us the whole thing. Gritty details. Starting from when you were in diapers.
Okay. Starting from when I was in diapers, maybe a little after I was in diapers, I was the kid who was taking everything apart and not putting it back together.
Amen.
Going on a little bit older than that, I was, still wanting to be making stuff all the time. And, I was the kid who was building like a wooden trebuchet in my backyard.
Fantastic.
That kind of thing.
Everyone needs a trebuchet.
And in school, I would want to keep building things. But, of course, you can't build things in math class or whatever. But you could draw out what you wanted.
Yes.
Problem is I have some issues with like fine muscle control in my hands.
Okay.
Nothing too debilitating, but it basically makes drawing and writing neatly almost impossible for me. I mean, I can scrawl something out, but I make a doctor's handwriting look good.
Yeah.
And I remember being at a bookstore one day with my mom. This was middle school, I think.
Okay.
And we found, in like a aisle display, there was a CAD package. I don't remember what it was called. Something off-brand, never seen before.
Yeah.
And I convinced my mom into getting me this CAD package.
Yeah.
I think I said it was like my dad's birthday was coming up, and I was like, oh, we can get this for my dad so he can decide. No, it was for me.
Yeah.
And I started playing with CAD when I was like 12.
Awesome.
And that eventually led into me going to Purdue and becoming an engineer. And a couple things kind of snowballed from there. But while I was at Purdue, so I was going after my engineering degree, I had a good friend, his name's Scott. He's worked with me on basically every business I've ever done. But Scott and I were hanging out one day, and he showed me a Kickstarter. This is when Kickstarter was fairly new for a pen. And this pen made like $300,000. And we looked at this pen, and we went, we can make a pen for $300,000. I mean, I'm a freshman in engineering. Like, of course I can do all of this.
Right.
It turns out we could not make a pen for $300,000.
They're hard. Yeah.
But that kind of led down a rabbit trail where initially we tried to go to a shop I drew up something in CAD and we brought it to a shop and tried to have them make it for us. And they were very polite. They were very nice.
Sure.
They looked at our drawings and then never called us again.
Sure.
Rightfully so. I don't blame them knowing what I know now.
Yeah.
And so after that I went, well, okay, if we can't find a shop to make it for us, we're going to have to figure out how to make it ourselves. A little bit later, some time had passed, it was a little bit later in school, I was able to get a job in the machine shop at Purdue, and I got kind of my first experience of manual machining there.
Yeah.
While I was there, I bought a small manual lathe, an Atlas lathe. It was from, I don't know, probably the 60s or something.
Yeah.
And played with that a little bit. And then later I was able to get a small desktop CNC lathe. I think it was probably $800 or $1,000. It needed a new controller.
Yeah.
But this thing was, the size of a toaster oven, including its enclosure. Like, it was not a big thing.
Right.
And we still never managed to make a pen on that thing. But it was kind of my start into, chip removal machining.
Yeah.
And eventually with that, we started making some tops, like some spinning tops. And we did a Kickstarter for that made a couple $1,000s. And that allowed us to buy a little small desktop mill. And things just kind of slowly snowballed where I went from, small machine to slightly bigger machine to slightly bigger machine. I think my next one after that was a Pocket NC desktop 5-axis.
Oh, wow.
That's something to Google if you've ever, if you want to see it.
Yeah.
Really neat little desktop machine, really capable for what its size was. And we started using that to make branding irons for woodworkers.
Okay.
And that was the first thing that we really made a decent amount of money on, was making those branding irons.
Yeah. Well, and that was kind of probably, it sounds like around the same time, a lot of maker communities starting up. You've got maker spaces, people trying more exotic woodworking projects all over the place.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Any of these?
In fact,
Any of those look familiar?
Yep, that's it. The one on the top right corner there is pretty similar to what I had.
Very cool.
But
So like high spindle speed, no torque,
exactly.
like just
No
super fine.
rigidity. But with branding irons, well, normally a branding iron would be just two-sided, right?
Yeah, sure.
You know, the design on the face and then a hole on the back for the handle.
Right.
But because I had 5-axis, I figured out very quickly that I could make fancier ones than everybody
Okay.
else.
Yeah.
And so I was able to do a design on the face and then also like a secondary design on like the edge of it. So you might have
Interesting.
the logo on your face, and
Yeah.
then on the top edge of it, might be just your name of your company.
Okay.
And then on the back, I would put some, decorative and type engraving on there.
Very cool.
So they just looked better than
Yeah.
what anyone else was making. And
Right.
because of that, we could charge more.
Right.
Which was good because they took like 10 hours each on the little machine.
What were you machining those out of?
Brass.
Brass. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the machine would just sit down there and run. I'd put,
Yeah.
one small little end mill in it, maybe have to do one or two tool changes.
Okay.
But it would just kind of sit there and, screech away in my basement for hours at a time.
That's fantastic. I mean, what more could you ask for a little desktop size? Like, right. So the reliability sounds like it was pretty good.
Yeah.
Right out of the box. It just wasn't, you're not going to be machining H13 tool steel maybe. But so you started making those. How many Kickstarters? You said that you had done all these. What other companies had you started up till that point? You had the pens, the branding irons.
So it was all kind of one company. That company was Design the Everything.
Okay.
Which started with the pens and stuck around for a number of years. I think we did a total of about 7 Kickstarters
Okay.
under that company name, with the biggest one being for some titanium carabiners.
Oh, okay. Very
so
cool.
We had two different carabiner designs. The first one was the one that let me quit my day job, where we did.
Awesome.
I think it was about 30,000, maybe 35,000 on Kickstarter.
mackerel.
Oh, hey, look at that! That's one of them.
Very cool.
And then
So that's funded totally from Kickstarter
Yeah.
to get started?
And then after Kickstarter in the backer kit sales, we did another, I think, about 15,000. So we were in the neighborhood of 50,000 on those carabiners.
And how were you machining those?
So at this point, I had kind of bootstrapped up through a couple of machines. I had used the money from the Pocket NC to buy my first Tormach, an 1100.
Mm-hmm.
It was in really bad shape, but it was really cheap.
Yeah.
And
As it should be.
yeah, exactly. And then after that machine, I was able to use that machine to pay basically for the down payment on a brand new Tormach 1100 MX.
Okay.
So at the time, it was their newest, best
Yeah,
machine.
yeah.
And
Well, it's like a real mill at that point.
it's a real mill at
Yeah,
that point.
right.
And that's what I used to make all of those carabiners.
Okay.
So at this point here, we were moving into my new workshop up here in Muncie.
Yeah.
So I went from, being a garage down in Indianapolis to I have almost 2,000 square feet up here
Yeah.
of nice climate controlled space.
Very nice.
And eventually we realized that business wasn't going to work out. The carabiners, they just took too much machining time for what we were able to sell them for.
Sure.
And we figured out that business was really, really good at turning money into more work for ourselves. So we would spend $100 on ads, and then after the cost of making the carabiners and all the overhead and everything, we were just breaking even. So we
Yeah.
would spend $100 on ads, we would work a whole bunch, and we would end up with exactly the same amount of cash as we started with.
Oh, man. So when you're machining, so you said the machining time was long, but were you doing like the anodizing and assembly and stuff all yourselves also?
Yes. So
Wow.
we were powder coating those.
Okay.
We played around with
Okay.
Cerakote.
Okay.
And weren't super happy with Cerakote. In retrospect, it was probably because we were bad at it. But it was also slow.
Yes.
And so
Yeah.
we moved to powder coating, and
Okay.
we were powder coating all of them. And that was also relatively time consuming because
Yeah.
they're kind of difficult to coat.
Yeah.
And
Well, they're small and they have all these different, you got to get it inside and yeah.
so we had a high number of rejects with that, and we were doing a 3-step powder coating process where we would do a really light base coat, and then our color coat, and then we would do a clear coat on top of that to give it a nice matte and fairly durable finish.
Yeah.
And for powder coating, it lasted pretty well.
Yeah, sure. So you were realizing, though, that you were just buying yourself more work.
Yes.
So then what do you do?
Well, we spent a while just kind of flailing, and
When you say flailing, do you mean you were trying different
we were
products?
trying different things.
Yeah.
We did the Kickstarter for the second carabiner design.
Okay.
The first one we called the Not for Climbing carabiner. The
Yeah.
second one was not so tactical. And the idea behind the not so tactical was bright colors with like basically a scale on them, kind of like a knife scale that
Okay.
you could interchange, and
Yeah.
you could mix and match whatever colors you want.
Very cool.
And that left us with a ton of powder coating. We spent
Yeah.
so much time powder coating those that fulfilling that Kickstarter took like 2 or 3 times longer than we thought it would.
Really?
Scott went back and got a job. I, at this point, was like, okay, I was just out of money. Like at this point,
Yeah.
I had burned through all of my savings. They lasted longer than I had expected. Like if we hadn't been making any money, they would have been drained fairly quickly. But we lasted
Yeah.
about 2 years on those.
Yeah.
And we were just out of money. So it was like, okay, I have this machine. What else can I do with it to make money?
Mm-hmm.
And so on my last month's worth of money, there's a company called Xometry. They're kind of like Uber for machine shops
Mm-hmm.
is the way I've described them. So customers go to Xometry, they send their parts up there, they get an instant quote back.
Right.
If they choose to go forwards with that order, it goes to a job board where machine shops can, choose which parts they want.
Okay.
And so I started doing Xometry work, and immediately in the first month I was profitable.
Wow.
So
That's fantastic.
That was a big change. Not wildly profitable, mind you, but profitable. That eventually, or actually fairly soon afterwards, I added another small Haas mill.
Yeah.
It's a Haas office mill. I don't remember the exact year on it, but I know it's old enough to drink. It's at least 23 years old or something.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll fit in well here.
Yeah. But it's designed for high accuracy, small work.
Sure.
So it had a 40,000 RPM spindle.
Oh, wow.
Which, for those of you that aren't familiar with CNC machining, is really, really fast.
Really fast.
So my Tormach had a 10,000 RPM spindle, which it's kind of on the fast side of standard.
Yeah.
So you can get faster spindles than that on most, industrial machines, but 10K is kind of considered like it's good.
Yeah.
Anything above 10K, you're paying a pretty
Yeah.
good amount of money for. So this 40K RPM spindle, it let me make parts profitably that other people couldn't.
Yes.
And on Xometry, there is a wide range of work. And if you only do the stuff that everybody else wants to do,
Right.
you make no money.
Right.
It's really, really difficult to make easy parts on Xometry and make money.
Yeah.
But if you're able to have a niche focus and
Mm-hmm.
do the stuff that nobody else wants to do, it really wasn't bad.
Yeah, sure.
And so that kind of slowly,
Well, give me an idea what parts you're talking about. Like what stuff were you finding becoming your bread and butter with the tools you had at hand?
anything small and detailed.
Okay.
So a lot of the work I did ended up going to like research laboratories.
Sure.
And a lot of like medical companies. So I was, nothing I made medical wise would like go into a person,
Sure.
but they were like assembly jigs.
Yeah.
One of the parts I made was a prototype cap for like an endoscope
Okay.
that I believe was about, I have to look back at my my drawings to get the exact numbers, but it was about 30 thou in diameter and about 10 or 20 thou. So that's
Wow.
like 3/4 of a millimeter in diameter and 1/2 millimeter tall.
Small.
Small. Yeah. And that had 3 holes in it that I think were about 10 thou.
Wow.
And, jobs like that, most people wouldn't want to touch.
Yeah, they just no quote it.
Yeah.
They don't even. Yeah.
But I could get, 2, 3, 4, 5 times what Xometry would initially offer on those parts because I was the only one that could make them.
Sure. So the way that works then, Xometry throws out a bid to the client and then opens it to you, and then you guys are bidding on which parts of the job you'll take on. Is that right?
So Xometry gives the customer a fixed number.
Okay.
That doesn't change.
Okay.
And then they put a starting offer onto a job board. And you can take the job right there at that starting offer, or you can do a counter offer on it.
I see.
And I would basically just go down my job board and counter offer everything.
Yeah, sure.
And I'd maybe get a 5% hit rate. But
Okay.
on that 5% of jobs that I did get back, I would get it back for 2, 3, 4 times
what the initial bid
what the
might
initial
have been. Because
bid
there was
was.
no one else that was willing to do it.
Yes.
Smart. Okay. So how does that, you're doing all of the labor yourself.
Yep. One-man shop.
And at this point, how many machines do you have? You have the Haas.
I have the Haas, and I had the Tormach 1100 for a while. The 1100 went away for a little while, and then I got the new Tormach 1500 from Tormach.
Okay. Are you still running the little 5-axis machine at this point?
No, that's long
Okay.
gone.
Okay.
I think I sold that to buy a bigger air compressor.
Sure. Yeah.
But I've ever since I had the 1100 MX, I've had a pretty good relationship with Tormach.
Yeah.
I was able to help them out with some like design feedback on both the machines and on their controller.
Right.
And we somehow skipped over this way back before then. I had started my YouTube channel.
Okay.
My YouTube channel, speaking of kind of the initial maker explosion, actually started off because I was in a Facebook group. I was invited there by a guy named Wes Swain under the name Geeksmithing on all of his social media. But I got into that Facebook group, and in that group, there were a lot of those big name YouTubers.
Yeah.
Bob Claggett from We Like to Make Stuff was in there. Jimmy DiResta was in there. And at this point, I had a big background in CAD.
Sure.
And this was when I was still in school. So I had done a lot of CAD. And on Jimmy DiResta's podcast, he asked for like, how do you do this thing in CAD? And so I recorded a tutorial in Fusion 360 on how to do that for Jimmy DiResta.
Yeah.
And posted that into the Facebook group. I don't know if you ever watched it, probably not. But
You'd
that
be
video,
surprised.
That video did pretty well. That got a
Yeah.
couple thousand views. And so I kind of just kept making Fusion 360 videos. And I made those for a while.
And this is before you've started the Kickstarter stuff.
This
Or
is before I started the
Okay.
Kickstarter stuff.
Okay.
And overlapping with that a little bit. But, at some point I got busy and that YouTube channel sat dormant for a couple years.
Sure.
But when we were starting back up with it was probably with the Carabiner Kickstarter, the first one, or maybe a little bit before it. We were like, well, I have this YouTube channel. It has 5,000 subs or something.
Yeah.
We might as well kick this back up as a marketing tool. And so I started making machining videos.
Yeah.
I think for a while we were trying to do like daily videos about the Kickstarter, like a daily vlog. And nobody watched those, but they were kind of fun. They taught me doing a video a day teaches you a lot about filming and editing.
Yeah, of course.
But, ever since I had that 1100, my Instagram at the time was relatively big for a machining Instagram.
Yeah.
I was about 10,000 followers or so. And so I got to know the people at Tormach. I had a friend who is like in charge of the service department, or very least he was the guy who knows what's going on in the service department.
Yeah.
And when they started coming out with their newest machine, their 1500, we were able to talk and got me a deal on that.
Yeah.
So I have one of their earliest 1500 machines, which is a complete. We might be getting too in the weeds here on the Tormachs, but like the Tormach machines before this machine were hobby machines.
Yeah.
And the 1500 is an industrial machine.
Right.
So I was able to, see one of their early models. I went up to their plant and did a tour. And so in exchange for my deal on my machine, I'm making videos about it.
Yeah.
And giving them like some design feedback and help troubleshooting bugs and testing things.
Yeah. That's fantastic. So you're in the Xometry, you're starting to gain a little profit, a little bit of momentum. You sounds like you found your niche, which your Audacity micro name fits perfectly with. You have the audacity to take these jobs no one else will do, and they're all really small. So you're taking it. So how does that continue to grow? What's the next steps then?
So I realized that I was taking a risk in having only Xometry as my customer.
Yeah,
like I was
right.
a one customer shop, which is risky as a business.
Yeah.
So from there, the next step was to start taking on more outside customers. And which really wasn't difficult. I had the YouTube channel. People knew me. I was very niche, so there wasn't a lot of other people doing what I was doing. So I kind of had, a reputation as the guy who did the small, difficult things nobody else wanted to do. So even when I was doing Xometry, I had a little bit of work slowly trickling in, and that amount of work kind of slowly increased over time.
Yeah. Was that coming word of mouth local? Was that word of mouth nationwide?
word of mouth on the machining internet community. So I don't think I've ever shipped a machined part within Indiana.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's all going somewhere else.
So you're getting these jobs through forums.
No, really through like Instagram, and there's
Okay.
a machinist Discord
Okay.
that is pretty good. It has a lot of just a good community there.
Okay.
I have my own podcast. I don't know if
Yeah.
you knew that. And work was kind of coming through there. I'm a one-man shop with cheap machines. Like I don't have a lot of overhead.
Sure.
But Xometry was kind of going downhill.
Okay.
And so about, was that 2 months or so ago, I took the step to be fully off of Xometry.
Okay.
And am now, only taking the work that I find myself.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're using your podcast, your YouTube channel, your Instagram account. Are you doing anything else marketing wise, or is that really the face of the company?
Yep.
And then do you have a website even, or are you just feeding in through those?
I don't even have a website right now.
Really?
Yeah.
So you're literally just taking this in through socials, contacting through Discord. That's kind of impressive.
Machining is really, really relationship based.
Yes, I agree.
Probably like it was 200 years ago. But like if you're running a business, you need good parts and you need
Right.
good parts on time.
Right.
And everybody will brag about their quality and their ability to deliver on time.
Yeah.
But with everybody saying the same thing, like for some of those people, it's just not true.
Of course.
And how do you verify it? Well, you ask your friend
Right.
where they get their parts from.
Right.
So it's basically all word of mouth.
Yeah. So are you looking at this now? What are you wanting to do with the business? Are you wanting to grow? Are you wanting to hire? Like, what are you thinking are the next steps for where you're going to be?
So the next step is really what I call subtract manufacturing.
Mm-hmm.
Call it the next step of Audacity Micro or a new business, either way. Subtract manufacturing is really, it's the same business model of Xometry. Customers
Okay.
come to us, they give us their CAD models, we give you a price, and then I send it out to our network of machine shops.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to just beat up on Xometry, but Xometry has some inherent problems in how their systems are set up.
Okay.
They are a publicly traded company, which forces them into making some decisions that are great for their shareholders,
Right.
But not good for their customers or the shops that are working for them.
Yeah.
And really, the way that Xometry grows is by adding more machine shops to their
Roster. Yeah.
The more machine shops you have, the more competition they have on their job board.
Right.
The more competition they have on their job board, the lower prices go.
Right.
And so I went from getting 3, 4, 5 times what their initial asking price was to almost never getting an offer accepted over their job board. And their prices on their job board kept going down too.
Yeah.
To the point where it was, maybe covering materials.
Wow. So Xometry pushed their network into a race to the bottom.
Exactly.
Wow.
And with that, so what happens when you do that is all the good shops leave. And so then Xometry is only left with the shops that are willing to take the bottom dollar work.
Right.
And so then Xometry started hitting a bunch of quality issues.
Yeah.
And, their reputation with customers started going down. And,
Right.
I mean, they're a big enough company, they'll be around forever. And, they try. Like, they really do their best. The people there are good people.
Sure.
But the way their economics and their system is set up, like, their investors are going to push them to grow.
Right.
They grow by adding more shops.
Right.
And to make things cheaper and get shorter lead times. And that's going to lead to lower quality work.
Right.
And a bad environment for the shops.
Right.
So Subtract is built around not doing that. We're not publicly traded. We have
Right.
zero investment other than what I've spent getting started on it. We're just kind of cash flowing the whole business. If we don't have cash to grow, then we're not going to grow.
Right.
So right now we have 8 machine shops.
Okay. Are those local or are they nationwide?
They are spread all over the place.
Okay.
So we have East Coast, West Coast, Texas, kind of everywhere in between.
Yeah.
Generally smaller machine shops.
Okay.
A lot of people like me, 1 or 2 man operations with low overhead. But we're able to pay the shops 2 or 3 times what Xometry pays.
Sure.
Because we don't, Subtract has almost no overhead.
Right. Right.
So it works out better for the shops. It works out better for our customers.
Right.
We're kind of specializing in, I don't mean to get sales pitchy here, but
Get
we
it.
specialize in fast delivery, high quality parts.
Okay.
So we're not cheap. We're not
Right.
competing with China.
Right.
We never will or want to compete with them on prices.
Right.
But we can get parts made and delivered faster than they can get them across the ocean.
Oh, of course, especially now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So Subtract. So you have two companies then. It sounds like you've got you're still doing the machine shop. I mean, which one's taking more of your time?
Right now, it is definitely Subtract.
Okay.
And to add complications into this mix, I've also started teaching for a state university here in Indiana.
Okay.
Teaching machine shop stuff.
Very cool.
So Subtract was kind of built around building a business the right way from the beginning, I guess I would say. Audacity Micro was basically like
Making it work. You had to figure it out.
Business.
Yeah, right.
It directly converted my time into, the ability to feed my family, into profits.
Right.
The goal behind Subtract was for me to be able to focus on the business and, properly, what's the term? Delegate out the work.
Yeah. So you're working with these 8 machine shops nationwide. You bring the work in, and then you feed it to them.
Exactly.
Okay.
So I have, as of yesterday, I have 3 people working with me.
Okay.
All part-time guys. I think between the 3 of them, we maybe get 40 hours a week.
Okay.
So I have one guy who who's working on kind of our technology side and kind of handles the day-to-day quoting and operations.
Yeah.
And then I have a kind of website and marketing guy. And the guy we just hired yesterday, we told him we gave him a job. We haven't even done his paperwork yet. But he'll be running kind of our social media kind of stuff.
Yeah. So then tell me about, so I do have a question. With that, does Audacity even bid on those jobs? Or is it purely sent out to these other shops?
So Audacity is our overflow shop,
Okay.
basically. So we really have 7 shops because I'm the 8th.
Okay.
I don't want to take work away from the shops on the network.
Sure.
But I also don't want to add just a ton of shops to make sure we always have infinite capacity.
Right.
So the rule is if I ever get like half of my available time booked, then we'll add a shop on.
I see.
Because that means our current shops are saturated with work.
Right.
They're happy. They don't want any more.
Right.
So we're able to add another shop on without, forcing competition into the system. We don't want competition between our shops.
Right. So is each shop like drastically different capabilities, or is it more like where they're at in the country?
There is definitely a spectrum.
Okay.
So we have some shops that have smaller machines. We have some shops with turning capabilities. We have some shops with multi-axis capabilities. And then we have some shops with bigger equipment.
Okay.
And there's not a clean divide anywhere in
Sure.
there. There's kind of there's a continuum from, small stuff to big stuff.
Right. Right. And so there is a level of competition on that they get to engage in, like what work they're specifically capable of doing, but it's not necessarily all my lathe work goes to this guy and all my boring mill stuff goes to this. So what kind of parts are you guys seeing come in the door?
So our niche seems to be companies who are making machines.
Okay.
So companies that are making like, custom manufacturing equipment.
Yeah.
Because they are not, reselling our parts.
Yeah.
So they don't need a, direct profit margin on what we're doing. They're selling their whole piece of equipment. They're making assembly lines or I can't
roller tables, conveyors, that kind of stuff. I see.
So they're doing like big turnkey setups for their customers.
Right.
And so they need good parts. They need them right the first time, and they need them on time.
Yeah.
Because their reputation is staked on that.
Right.
So, we're expensive. We are an expensive company to work with.
Right. Yeah, but your market demands it.
But yeah.
Yeah.
And there's kind of a little bit of like we knew that had to be our market to do what we wanted.
Right. Now become Xometry. Now become a race to the bottom.
Exactly.
Yeah, right. Right. So how long have you had Subtract going for?
Subtract has only officially been running for 3 months at this point.
That's fantastic. So already feeling the stability of acting on what you learned though from these prior years of working with Xometry, doing your machining, so you're taking everything that you've learned
Yes.
and just making a company be effective at solving those problems.
Yes. Subtract is the first thing I've done that hasn't felt like it's fighting me.
Congratulations.
With Design the Everything, doing my product-based business, it was a struggle the whole time. Particularly with marketing.
Yeah.
Making the products weren't too bad, but trying to figure out how to sell a $60 carabiner for your keychain,
Right.
nobody really needs that. The
Sure.
$2 ones are fine.
Yeah.
And so I found that marketing battle to be difficult.
Right.
With Audacity Micro, kind of the downside of specializing in niche, difficult things that nobody else wants to do. It's like,
Right.
well, there's a reason.
They're difficult.
For that.
Yeah.
But from the first month with Subtract, we were profitable.
Fantastic.
We doubled the second month, and this month, basically depending on the timing of an order that we have,
Yeah.
if we get a PO now or if it falls into the next month, we'll double again for
Yeah.
the third month in a row.
That's fantastic.
So that's been wild.
That's absolutely wonderful. So that kind of leads into my next question, because we also did a cross-country tour of manufacturing, but we kind of went at it. We were looking for companies that were similar to ours in product family, just to go see how they're doing it. We were over in South Dakota, we were up in Michigan, we went over to West Virginia. So when you're doing these manufacturing tours, how are you selecting manufacturers that you want to go see, and then what are you seeing? Like what's happening in the state of manufacturing?
Yeah. I get to record many less tours than I actually go on.
Okay.
Just through the school and through some other kind of consulting and training work I've done. I've gotten
Sure.
to see a lot of places. Most manufacturing isn't a huge fan of walking around with a camera.
Yes, I found that to be true as well.
So it tends to be, people I can connect with on Instagram or whatever.
Right.
They're the ones that let me walk around with the camera.
Yeah.
I recently did one with Henry Holsters down in Bloomington.
Okay.
I'm not sure if you're familiar with
No,
them.
I'm not. Tell me all about it.
They are a super cool company.
Okay.
They make, as you might expect, holsters.
Oh, yeah, sure.
But their manufacturing processes are like the most refined and smoothest I have ever seen.
Wow.
So the guy who runs, his name's Andrew Henry, is really into lean. I'm not sure how much lean manufacturing you guys have ever talked
Yes.
about. I have seen lots of plants that say they do lean.
Yep.
But down at Henry Holsters, they do it right.
Yeah.
And they're doing it in a way that maximizes what their employees can do. They make their employees' life very easy. It's what I would call human-centric lean over just like money-centric lean.
Which is exactly where it should be.
Which is exactly where it should be.
Yes.
And, it's not, their setup there isn't huge. They maybe have, 10 or 20 people working there.
Okay.
But it's still a manufacturing plant. They shipped a ton of stuff while I was there.
Yeah.
And they don't make it to order, but they have really small amounts of inventory. They use, a Kanban system if you want to get into the lean terminology. So they were making stuff. Like they were busy. They weren't sitting idle. But that place was quiet. It was calm.
Yeah.
There was no normal manufacturing chaos that you see.
Right.
Since I'm apparently just in sales mode, I have a video on them. And if you're into kind of like lean and what manufacturing could be,
Yes.
it's a really cool
Fantastic.
shop tour to watch.
Yeah.
You guys should go visit them.
Oh, yes.
I'm sure they'd be open to it.
That's what I'm thinking too, is we need to call. I mean, you said they're down in Bloomington. I'm definitely
Yeah.
going to watch your video
I think
as well.
it's technically Spencer, Indiana, but close to Bloomington.
Okay. Yeah.
But I've also seen shops that are the exact opposite of that.
Yeah.
So I was in Allison Transmissions.
Mm-hmm.
Like the last couple of weeks, I've been to GM. There's a company up in northern Indiana called Modern Forge.
Okay.
And just kind of all over the spectrum of manufacturing.
Yeah.
There's a lot of places that, kind of say they do lean. There's some of them that do it well.
Yeah. I mean, it has to be an entire ethos. You have to completely reimagine the company if you're
Yes.
going to pursue it, because it changes everything from the bottom up. And it's supposed to be human-centered. You're supposed to be, I mean, one of the biggest missing utilizations in manufacturing is the creative capacity of the people that are engaged in making things, So my exposure to lean was very, very soon after we started the company, I started reading about Toyota Production System and Taiichi Ono, and going in and learning about, how the single minute exchange of dies came about. Like my interest in lean, I focused on, because our company was so small, I thought I need to see what the founding fathers of this were up against. I don't need these Six Sigma modern day solutions. It's just me and another guy, but I need to understand the ethos and the foundation of why this exists, and why this, post World War II Japan, when Toyota was shipping trucks with one headlight and one set of brakes, because they literally didn't have the raw materials to make any more. So, what obstacles did they have to overcome? And so that was my initial exposure into lean. And so our engagement with lean is kind of a rough, we use a supermarket and Kanban systems and very simple inventory management, and let the work stay in constant flow from one end of the shop to the other. Raw material comes in this door, a finished product leaves at this door, and everything is staged so that it just flows through the shop. That's the idea. The implementation of that is complicated. Yeah. And, what I saw often, and I'm curious to get your opinion on this, was there are a lot of identifiers of lean that are simple to implement and look lean and feel lean to the management team, but they have no effectual contribution to anything. They just, we installed our Andon light system. It's like, great. Nobody's using it. Nobody even knows why it's here. So I'm curious, what's your take on the state of manufacturing in the United States? So you're talking about, GM on one end and Henry Holsters on the other. Are you seeing a lot of small manufacturing pop up? Are you seeing healthy reinvestment in manufacturing? Tell me all about what you're seeing as you're going around and looking at these shops.
There is definitely a ton of small shops popping up.
Yeah.
I don't think, my story is particularly unique when you start looking around. Part of that is, I think, a lot of kind of the online community.
Right.
Where traditional manufacturing is very, very tight-lipped.
Mm-hmm.
They don't like sharing their secrets. They don't let you bring a camera into their plant.
Right.
They're definitely not going to teach you, how to do whatever specific thing.
Right.
And that's kind of the state at these bigger companies.
Yeah.
And, there's a huge... There's starting to be a big labor shortage as the experienced old guys start to retire out.
Right.
And now, there's no one, they didn't do a good job training the younger generation. And
well, if they did, it wasn't in the US.
Yeah.
It was getting trained elsewhere. Yeah.
So with the older generations leaving, the younger generations coming in, and we're realizing, okay, we were depending on the skills of these older guys that have been doing it for 50 years.
Yeah.
New guys coming in, and we have a process written down because that's the right thing to do.
Right.
But it turns out no one was actually following it.
Right.
And it doesn't work.
Right.
And so now a lot of these companies are just kind of a mess, and they're frantically trying to get everybody trained.
Yeah.
Which is one of the reasons why I've been busy. Is because I've been.
It's not bad news for you.
Yeah. And the flip side of that is there's a lot of younger guys who are, they're hungry, they're interested in this stuff.
Yeah.
And they're, trying to figure out what to do, and going to these old companies and, working next to the crotchety old guy who's not going to share his secrets just isn't interesting.
Right.
But they're looking around on Instagram and, in a Discord group or whatever, and they're seeing what everybody else is doing.
Yeah.
Everybody's kind of sharing information freely. And so the obvious thing for them to do is go start their own shop.
Right.
I mean, again, this is what I did.
Right.
So I think there's a lot of cottage industry popping up.
Yeah.
And the more established industries kind of starting to struggle a little bit.
Yeah. Do you see the bigger companies dissolve into relying on cottage industry a little bit? Are you seeing those little pop-up shops beginning to answer the problems that the big companies just can't solve anymore?
That's an interesting thought. I haven't seen that yet. I don't know if it's because of, my window. When I'm going into these companies, I'm doing training. I'm not in the purchasing department.
Sure.
It at very least, I suspect they get skill from these little cottage industries. I have friends who started a little shop and worked on their own for a while, did zometry work or whatever, and then ended up going and working for SpaceX. So, like
Wow, that's quite a jump.
So the cottage industry is kind of an incubator for skill, which I think will make its way into traditional manufacturing.
Sure. Basically to shore up the gaps, the knowledge gaps. So these guys are out on their own training themselves, and then they're getting purchased or hired and brought into these bigger. So one of the things that I found interesting recently, I was having a conversation with our good friend of the company, Kurt Fehrenbach, who runs custom blacksmithing in Atlanta, Indiana, and he's from the industrial forging side. So they're forging down, ship axle or ship drive shafts, and also very large industrial forgings. And his mentor, which was Clifton Ralph, basically what happened was massive industrial forging plant closed down the superfluous blacksmith shop on, at the factory that made things like tongs and jigs and fixtures and hooks that they would use in the big forging operations. Well, we'll just outsource that. Well, then the little outsource shop closed, but they had already closed their plant and, nobody worked there anymore. Well, Clifton took some of the ex-industrial equipment into his home shop, and then he would take on the overflow work. Well, then people started, navigating to him in the local community, young guys that were looking for interesting skills, and they started getting trained up in how he was doing. Well, then when he started to age out, they opened their own shops, or, the big shops would come and say, I need, and even Andy and I, when we were first getting started, we had a very large national company come to us and they said, we need these 6 SKUs. We have nobody in the United States that's willing to take on this work, because it was a mixture of machining and forging and heat treating. All needed to be done to make these finished products. And they were selling them internally. It was basically workers for the electrical grid needed these specialty pieces of equipment, and nobody would make them. So we were like, great, we'll make them. And so it's kind of like that. These larger companies didn't realize that when they closed the internal branch, this little side division that wasn't making them any money, they thought, they closed it, they lost the guys, but they lost the experience, the knowledge, the wisdom that those little side, shops carried. And I think what happened was then we kind of skipped a generation that did not get the training, did not get the wisdom, got nothing handed down to them in that methodology. And so now the shops are desperate. The big companies are desperate. They still need, and I think there's a technological gap there as well, where the AI and the robotics and stuff like that, like additive manufacturing or subtractive, like they still have to have forging and assembly and even manual. We've got, have you heard of Magna Tool?
No, I've not.
So Magna Tool is a machine shop in a barn here, local. They're over in Newcastle where I live, literally out in a cornfield. The welding shop is the barn, and then they just added, and now they've got some of the most world-class machines. I mean, they've got Akumas and all the fun 5-axis stuff, but they've also got, 2-story tall boring mills that are manual, and they have a team of guys that are probably in their 50s or early 60s that when they have no other shops to go to, people will send the work to Magna, but they'll do even the full spectrum. They'll machine all the components. They've got a little assembly shop. We walked in and they were assembling, stuff that we wouldn't be able to take pictures of for the medical industry. But these hyper precision machines. And they were doing full electrical enclosures, wiring. I mean, like the full shebang. And they were doing the entire job from start to finish in this little shop in a cornfield over here. Magna Tool would be a great shop for you to reach out to and do a video with. They're fantastic and they're local. And there's Chesterfield Tool also in Chesterfield, and they are more on the big spectrum. So, their boring mills are set into the floor so their forklifts can drive onto them and all that kind of fun stuff. But, they have like a VF8, So So, yeah, the way that I'm looking at it, and as I'm going around and talking to these CEOs of these medium-sized shops, workforce is a huge issue. When we were in Phillips, South Dakota, literally, he was like, we hired half of the town and the hospital hired the other half. And so he's like, the only option for us to grow or even sustain is to automate, because I don't have a workforce I don't have a pool to pull from, because the town's shrinking, as it's a small town in the middle of nowhere. So it's like they have a really concentrated version, I think, of what's happening nationwide.
Yeah.
The pool is shrinking. The guys are aging out. They're not sharing their information because they were taught not to. In, the big industry, everything's closed down. You can't talk to anybody, no cross training, no, utilization of creativity. It's like you do it by this and that's it. But what I'm hoping for, and what I'm trying to be a part of with our company and with our product family, is, small shops learning to forge, learning a machine, learning to fabricate. That's what I did. I taught myself all of it. When we started, I had never used a mill before. I'd never even seen a mill in real life before, but I learned welding and machining, and then CNC machining, and then lathe work, all self-taught off YouTube and just raw trial and error. And I scrapped 3 knee mills. I wore the ways out. I blew the gears out of the head on a Induma, and then we bought a turn of the century Kearney and Trekker, and I was like, this is too nice. I cannot afford to use this mill. So what I'm hoping for is, bolster that cottage level. And I'm calling it the same thing. I'm so glad you said the word, because I'm calling it cottage industry too. And I don't think it's a negative descriptor. Yeah. I think it's exactly what's needed at this time and place. Small, homegrown, community-based shops, and you get this effect where like local community people are relying on them for machining and odd fabrication, which just bolsters their intelligence and wisdom and experience. And then as the big shops get more and more desperate, I think you're going to see kind of a dissolution of their capability and they're going to have to go out and start, because, as we, especially with the trade relations, what there are and where they're trending, it's like right now, a shop like that, we have got a massive injection molding shop here in town, massive. And I was talking to one of the guys there, and he said, they have no capability in-house to machine their own parts. They can repair, but they cannot make from scratch. And so when they need a new injection molding die, they send a drawing to China, and they wait 6 months, and they get the injection molding in, and usually it's okay. And then they put it in the machine, run it, repair it, and they can maintain it. But it's like, if our trade negotiations go south, where do they go? Have you seen, I'm sure you have, being on YouTube, but the video where the guy was making the grill scrubber in the United States, that everybody that I've met, I've talked to about that video, just because it's such an excellent cross section of exactly where we are, place and time today as capability, and the injection molding shop being what it was when he was there, and the guy passed away, while he's filming. It's like, this is an exact cross-sectional analysis of where we are industrially and capability-wise. In my town, when I moved to Indiana, I moved to Cicero, and there was a 18th century glass blowing plant. I've got a wonderful newspaper article from like 1839, I think, where they were hiring all of the local children, and then they wouldn't pay them, because they're children. What are they going to do? That's literally what the foreman said. He's like, well, they're just kids. So, and there's a picture of all the kids lined up, and they're blowing the glass and putting it back on the conveyor, still hot, and they're all sweaty. It's like, oh my gosh. Like 6-year-olds.
Is this that video you were talking about?
Yes, that one. I tried to make something in America, the Smarter Scrubber Experiment by Smarter Every Day. A fantastic video. But I mean, and the chainmail that he's using, they couldn't source. He found one company that was willing to do it. And I think that's a key word here. As we're navigating this, willing, there has to be a willingness for people to step up and say, I'll figure it out. A willingness for small shops to get started, just like you did, just like I did. And I think there is a willingness, which gives me hope. But there is a big divide between industrial capability at the turn of the century, 1910, 1920. I think a great a great vision of that was when we were up visiting Dake, and I was talking to the ex-CEO of Dake Manufacturing, and he was talking about they took on a job where they were in charge of machining basically the entirety of boring mills for some huge corporation. I don't remember the name. And they had taken on the contract, and they got like 2 in, and they had one guy that could hand scrape the ways for these boring mills. And he was like, I couldn't train anyone fast enough to fulfill the contract. And, it's like, what do you do? And especially at that era, that was like late 70s, early 80s, I think. They didn't have access to the internet and go out and try to find somebody. So it's like, we're at this really pivotal point where we have access to a ton of information like never before. But the experienced guys often aren't participating.
Yes.
Or can't participate. And so, it's like we have to jump over the chasm that's opening between where we were and where we need to be to stay like, what's the word I want? Stay viable as an industrial superpower. And so anyway, long answer to my own question. So does that track with what you're seeing? And where do you see the opportunities then for small shops or guys that even have an interest? Like where do they go? What do they do?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, I've been in a lot of shops recently, big manufacturing, small manufacturing. And if I had to pin it down to one thing, I would say the thing that American manufacturing is failing at is sharing information.
Yeah.
I don't think we have, a problem with the next generation coming in and not being interested in working or being soft or whatever.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that as a problem at all.
Yeah.
At all. I don't think there's a problem with policies or trade. No, what we're bad at doing is working with other manufacturers, sharing our information, and building. All ships rise with the tide. We're not doing that.
Yeah.
We're keeping everything siloed. We, are so focused on our own little thing that we can't look at the broader picture.
Yeah.
So I think if we are going to, quote unquote, fix American manufacturing, we need more people who are good at what they're doing, sharing it. Either, smaller training, bringing in apprentices.
Yeah.
Starting up more apprentice programs would be, I think, probably the biggest thing we could do.
Yeah.
More people, making YouTube videos. You mentioned that you started with a lot of YouTube videos. Almost everything I learned starting off was John Saunders from NYC CNC, John Grimsmo from Grimsmo Knives. There's a guy named Robin Renzetti who is a old school tool maker, and just 100 times more skilled than I will ever be. And his videos aren't the most entertaining in the world, but man, does this guy know things and really understand precision. And the fact that he's sharing that, that his YouTube channel, I think, should be a national treasure.
Go to the Smithsonian level of,
the information there, it just doesn't exist anywhere else.
Yeah, right.
And with the micro machining kind of stuff I was doing, you can find, some surface level stuff in NYC CNC, but then you start to get niche and there's just no information.
Just falls off.
I got to the point where I was reading books by clockmakers or watchmakers rather, because they're the only ones that have shared stuff about making small stuff. And, if you know the watchmaking industry, they're not exactly a verbose industry. They like to keep their secrets.
Yeah, right.
And so a lot of it was just trial and error.
Yeah.
And if I had more information, it could have, took months
would
or
have
years
advanced
off my
you.
learning
Yes.
curve.
Yes.
So if we want to get better in manufacturing in the U.S., we just need to share more. We need to learn how to communicate with each other. We need to learn how to train each other. We need to be willing to accept new ideas. I mean, lean has been around for a really long time.
Yes.
It's not a new concept.
Not at all.
But, some of these plants that I've been in, I'll give one example. I can't say who it was, but they have these big, huge horizontal mills, and they were having capacity issues on them. They couldn't make enough parts, couldn't put enough through them. Well, it turns out their setup times were in the order of a week. So it's taking them a week to set up a new job and run it. And so they ended up buying 4 new of these machines at well over $1 million each.
Oh, yeah.
And it's they're not running for more than 10% of the day because you're spending all of the time
Solving the
setting them up.
wrong problem.
And it's like, well, you mentioned
single minute
SMED.
exchange.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's like, Shigeo Shingo was alive a long time ago.
Yeah. They were figuring this out in like the 50s.
Yeah. And there's, this company could have spent $50,000 on 0-point systems and solved all their problems.
Yeah.
But I think because it was kind of an older generation, they just didn't know.
Right.
These guys were kind of on their own little island. I don't think they would be scrolling Instagram at the end of the day.
Right.
And so they just didn't know these better systems existed.
Right. Yeah. So, yeah, I think what you said is fantastic. I think it's so on point. You made me feel self-conscious about the fact that I have an internship program with the local school, but a true apprenticeship program would be just absolutely vital. So Anderson, I don't know what you know about Anderson being in Muncie, maybe but GM town, when GM left, you had 25,000 breadwinners lose their job, but what that really meant was probably another 10,000 small mom and pop shops that were feeding. That's what happened at the Cicero shop. So that glass blowing plant obviously wasn't glass blowing anymore. It was a stamping shop for Delco Remy. And I went in to buy some equipment that he was selling. And the owner of the company, was shipping all of the stamping equipment down to Mexico, and he was flying down to train the company, everybody that was going to work at this new company, in how to do his job that he had just spent the last 40 years of his life doing. And so, Delco Remy went out, all these shops, we got a bunch of tools from a shop up here called Kennedy Tool and Die. And that was they did steering columns for GM. And they had all this specialty, lathes and massive, I don't even know what it was, probably 72-inch broach. So it could broach a 72-inch shaft.
Yeah.
Super specialty stuff. And it got chopped up and sold out for scrap because, every 100 guys showed up for work one day and there was a sign on the door, go to the unemployment office. And it's just there's such far-reaching effects. So yeah, all these guys are losing their income, and the families, all of that devastation. But then you have this another layer of the owners of those shops then are selling off their equipment to these foreign manufacturing and then flying overseas to set up shop and train this new era. Again, we skipped a generation that didn't get to training, didn't get the opportunity to get trained, didn't have the opportunity to make the parts here. So now we're 2 generations deep, and you've got guys like you and I that are trying to figure it out, but we've got scraps to work from, and I'm thankful for the scraps. But fantastic analogy there. It's like there's a willingness for sharing knowledge at a company level, at our size company, and then another layer deep of making that information as public and available as possible. Now I'm thinking, man, I need to be shooting YouTube videos, have basically a whole channel devoted to is everything that I've learned about manufacturing in the United States. Here's how we set up our initial Kanban system and why it didn't work. Here's what that led to. Try to get over the learning curve so that the next guy in line can skip that part and move to the next part and continue to further that knowledge depth. I think that's a huge opportunity, especially for guys like ourselves that have already learned a lot of things, to share everything that we possibly humanly can. It's like, we have to. So, I appreciate you coming out here today and talking with us. If, leave us with what you're hopeful for with, whether it's from the Subtract manufacturing company that you just very recently started. Like, what are you thinking about on a daily basis? What problems are you trying to solve? Like, what are you doing and where are you hoping to go next?
So the focus of a lot of my attentions recently with Subtract have been around quality and trying to figure out, how you manage quality over a, distributed network of machine shops.
Yeah.
When you're a one-man shop making your own parts, your quality system is basically just your own integrity.
Right.
And, it's really just a judgment call if you ship the part or not. Mm-hmm. You can have paper processes and, things written down, but at the end of the day, when you're a one-person shop, you're the one who decides if you follow them or not.
Right.
And so it's all about, again, your integrity as a machinist, as a business owner. With a distributed system, where I'm, working in shops across the country, I don't get to even see the part. So I can't just rely on me going, yes, I will put my name on this.
Right.
So, I think mentioned SMED, Single Minute Exchange of Buys.
There's a mouthful.
Shigeo Shingo. Well, he has another book called Zero Process Control. So I've been deep in that book recently.
Okay.
Trying to, get our quality systems together.
Yeah.
Right now, I know all of the different shops that are working on the network. So I know that they will put their name behind their parts, and I can trust these people. But if we're ever going to grow, there's going to be people I just don't know.
Right.
So figuring out how to do quality at scale when you're not there is where I have been.
What are you
on.
thinking? Like, what's the formulation then that you're starting with?
That is a really good question. I wish I had a great answer. So I'm going back to the Zero Quality Control book by Shigeo Shingo, and starting with a lot of his systems.
Okay.
So requiring 100% inspection and in-process inspection, I think is the biggest thing. Where manufacturers get themselves in trouble with quality, everyone wants to do a good job, and they do their best.
Right.
But where people get in trouble is where they back themselves into a corner. And one way you back yourself into a corner is by doing a bunch of batch work and getting halfway through this batch of 200 parts, realizing you made a mistake in the first step, and then not being able to afford.
You're too invested.
And so you
just run with it.
You just run with it and hope that it works out.
Right.
So we give a lot of benefits for shops that are running with single piece flow.
Yeah.
We have stricter requirements if you're going to do batch inspection, or batch production versus single piece flow. Where I would love to require 100% inspection on everything, but that does get prohibitively expensive, and we want these shops to not hit us and to actually be able to make money. Spending 2 hours machining and 10 hours inspecting is not fun. So trying to provide our shops with a system to easily inspect as much as they can as the parts are being made. So coming up with some parametric 3D printable gauge designs where you can stick a gauge pin or 2 gauge pins in a 3D printed block and have a go, no go gauge.
Now, are you making those and shipping them, or is the shop that's making the parts they need to make that first as a part of their inspection?
So we're providing a parametric design file, so they can just 3D print them.
Perfect.
And just coming up with systems where you can easily gauge a whole bunch of things, and it's not a headache. But you can check every part.
Right. So are you personally designing that process and system per order?
I'm focused on a higher level. So I'm focused on the overall systems, the overall inspection system. Those higher level systems, that's my job at the company. I have someone else handling technology and the day-to-day operations. I should have someone handling sales soon. I have someone handling marketing and website. My job is to make sure that, the company processes work.
Right.
So, inspection systems, how we communicate with the customer, we need systems for that. Our quoting systems, that was the first big part. I think at this point we have that pretty well nailed down.
Is that a software, or is that what did you do for that?
So it's a little bit of software and spreadsheet. So there is a company called Toolpath. They are actually a CAM automation company. So they're trying to get to the point where you can give them a CAD model and it'll automatically program it for you. And they've gotten really good in the last couple months. They're almost there. But they also do quoting. And it turns out if you can automatically program a part,
you can quote it.
You can quote it really, really accurately.
Interesting.
And so we just have a subscription to their software. And
that's called what? Toolpath?
Toolpath. Toolpath.com is the website. But they, just giving them a solid model, they will give you a really accurate machine time. Even if the program to run as on your machine might only be 80 or 90% complete.
Sure.
It
gets you a framework. Absolutely.
To quote on.
Yeah.
So we take Toolpath. They give us numbers. Toolpath is really job costing.
Okay.
And it gives you machine time, how many different setups,
Right.
what tools you'll use.
Right.
It doesn't take into account tighter tolerances or risk factor.
Okay.
So it kind of gives you how much it costs you as a shop.
Right.
And then we have a spreadsheet that we put that into.
That's
That'll
fantastic.
take into account.
What a resource, though.
Yeah.
Wow. Fantastic. Especially for small shops. I mean, that's a very capable. I mean, that's another person basically that would normally be sitting there putting all those pieces together. That's awesome. That's awesome.
Toolpath
I'm going to
is
definitely
great.
check that out. That sounds really cool. Yeah. Okay. Well, anything else? Where can we find you? Where can we hire you to make stuff for us? What's all the places?
Yeah, the place I'm most active on social media is my YouTube channel.
Okay.
So youtube.com/AudacityMicro or whatever it is. Just
Yeah.
search Audacity Micro and I'll show up.
Awesome.
I also have a podcast called Taps and Patience,
Okay.
which is
Taps
me and
and patience.
when we first started that podcast, we hadn't had a name for it yet.
Yeah.
But I think in the first 3 weeks, my co-host and I broke like 25 taps between the two of us. So that's where we got the name.
Yes.
And then if you want parts made, subtractmanufacturing.com. You can submit your
Fantastic.
parts there. We'll get you a quote generally within an hour or two.
Awesome. Well, sir, thank you so much for coming today. And we're going to be filming after this too. You're going to tour of Cole Ironworks. All right. Thanks for listening, guys. Have a wonderful day. Go start a small business. Save America. Save the world. That was great. Yeah. You are the first person to be on the podcast that knows anything.